Our resident attorney is back. He knows exactly how to get custody of a child. One of the most popular topics, really, Sid, we've taken it on before, child custody. What a difficult position to be in if you're wondering how to get custody. You've got some experience. Folks, for those of you who aren't familiar with Sid yet, he is an attorney who works in the area of child custody and family law frequently. And so you've got some background and experience with this. Help us out, Sid. How do you get custody of a child?
All right. I want to first start with a story, and this is about my first big win when I won custody for a client of mine. This was a neighbor client of mine. I was a young, inexperienced attorney. I wasn't experienced, especially in the business side of things, and so I didn't make any money on this case. But there were 4 children at stake, and my client was very worried about losing the children because what she was up against was her ex-husband and her ex-husband's father. Her ex-husband's father is someone she used to work for at the university where she studied, and her ex-husband's father was actually a psychology professor at that university. And so she was very worried that he would be able to say a whole bunch of damaging things to ruin her testimony, to undermine her, and to support his own son. Well, we went through the battle. And it was a battle. It was 5 days of trial. It was scheduled for 2 days of trial. We did have a couple of expert witnesses. There were some shenanigans that were played. I mean, I think each side did some things. For example, I think somebody signed up the husband for a pornography magazine to make him look bad. And of course, he assumed that it was my client that did that. And so there was a handwriting expert that came. I mean, it got really nasty.
This is typical.
This is typical.
Unfortunately.
When people look at custody battle as a war, this is very typical.
What can I do to defame or discredit or make that other person look terrible?
Exactly. And at the end, one of the things the judge said, which was so relieving to me, was that the judge actually said, you know, if I believed everything the professor father had told us, then this person must have been Jesus, because he was absolutely perfect. And he said, and I don't believe that. And I also don't believe he's a horrible person. And I don't believe mom's a horrible person or that she's the best person who ever lived. But he went by mostly the legal factors. And unfortunately, and this is the other thing the judge said, and this is sort of what hit me in the heart. He said, neither of these parents really seem to be focusing on the best interest of the children. That's what the law is focusing on.
Right.
So I have 3 bullet points that I want to talk about when you're thinking about gaining custody or winning custody. Okay. And maybe gaining and winning is a good twist. I think when we think win-lose, and maybe that gets us into the mindset of war. And I think war is not good for the process. And I'll tell another story at the end, but I just want to prime it up by saying war results in casualties, and the casualties of war in a custody battle are often the children.
Unfortunately, Sid, you know this as well as I do. The court is a terrible place to solve family problems. But it's what we've got.
Yeah, it's what we've got
when there's a divorce.
And luckily the law, at least in Utah, and I believe in several other states, does require mediation. And mediation is a place to go where it's not war, where people can put their ideas on the table in a confidential manner and see if they can work something out that the law might not have worked out.
Sid, you and I did another video a while back about mediation, and you can find it here on the channel if you want to learn more about it.
And that's a really good way to go. So the first bullet point here is to focus on yourself rather than focus on the other side. Everyone's worrying about, what can I say bad about the other person? What can I prove to the court is so horrible about the other side? Well, here's what happens, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but if I keep rolling around in my mind about what's wrong with the other person, I'll stop seeing any good in the other person, and I'll believe and exaggerate the things that I think are bad. Yeah. And guess what? I don't think it's humanly possible not to let that leak into the psyches of the children. The children are going to pick up on it.
Even if you're the best actor or actress in the world, they're going to pick up on it.
Yeah.
I've actually said, I'm glad you brought that up, because I have coached and counseled some of my clients to go beyond what they're saying. They say, well, I never talk bad about the other parent in front of the kids.
Of course.
And I'm like, we'll give you a medal. Thank you for that.
Right.
Can we take it to a different level? Here's the challenge. Don't think badly about the other parent. No, that's a challenge.
That's a challenge. And also, you and I both know body language is even more powerful a lot of times than word language. I've heard that 70, 80, 90%. I've heard different experts say it differently. Mm-hmm. The kids know. And in this day of online and media and social media and such, when you say something to someone, you, even if your kids don't have access to your account, maybe whoever you're sending your information to and your mean things about the other side to, maybe they have kids who can read it and then tell your kids about it.
You're putting it in a public domain.
Yep, you're putting it in a public domain and it's out there. The second thing is also the first thing. So there are really two first bullet points. Okay. The second one is focus on the best interest of the children. Just like that judge mentioned in that one, in that case that I had in the beginning. Think about what you want for your children in the future. And here's where another story comes in. I am a photographer by hobby. I inherited a camera from my brother one day, and I just have a good eye for it. And so one of my favorite things to do is take pictures at weddings. One time I was taking a picture at a church, and everyone had been inside the church for the actual wedding, but the pictures afterwards, you know, the photographer, I like to be in charge, and the photographers are in charge. So I had everybody gather, so the whole party was there, and then we did the groom side, and the groom was my friend, and so I knew his family really well. Then we got to the bride side, and I wanted her mom and dad, and they had been divorced, and so they each had their own new spouses and such. And then I found something out. Mom and dad could not be in the same picture. So, so the bride had to have two sets of pictures with her parents, one with her dad's side and one with her mom's side. And I thought, really? We've all just been in the church together. In fact, it was a temple, which is even more sacred for their particular church. And yet they could not be in the same picture. What is that teaching the kids? Long story short, in the future, these kids whose wedding I was photographing, they ended up getting divorced. And they both had parents that had really questionable marriages and really questionable examples. And wow, think of what you want in the future. Do you want war to perpetuate from generation to generation? Or do you want, hey, we can work this out to perpetuate from generation to generation? I think that is the best thing.
Wow, Sid, I have seen this damage generations.
Yes, absolutely.
And you and I are both old enough now to know that there are generations after the ones that we work with.
Exactly.
As you shared this story, I'm thinking of the impact that it has on the kids.
Exactly.
And why can't those parents be in the same picture together? Because of their own issues.
Right.
And they're not focused on the kids. What would be best for those kids?
And think about success. I don't know if I get training all the time. I'm involved with child welfare. I get involved in parental custody and things like that. They've defined success for children as graduating from high school, living above the poverty level, not getting into legal trouble, and also staying out of psychological trouble and needing to, things like suicidal ideation and things like that. Yeah. That if a child is able to not go through those things, to graduate and to live above poverty level and then not be involved in jail and deep psychological issues, that's considered success. Is what you're doing going to contribute to that? Sometimes the custody battle ruins kids' educations. They don't want to go to school. Kids respond. And kids respond to the vitriol that they see in their parents. So again, the first one, focus on yourself and focus on your children. So those are 2 and 1, 1 and 2. You can switch those up. The third one, you've got to do it right and be thorough.
Meaning?
Here's what I'm meaning by that. You get what you pay for. If you're going to go through a custody battle without an attorney, you're going to be in trouble if the other side has an attorney. You need to understand what the law is and what really matters to be presented to the court. One more story. This is a quick story. I one time was in a custody battle and my client was sitting right next to me and the other side went first. It was the husband and his attorney got up and said such mean and awful rotten things about my client and silly things. And my client was like, ugh, and she was writing down how I could respond. And then I got up and I told the judge what I thought he needed to know for my client to get custody. Guess what? We won. My client didn't catch that. What she caught was I wasn't saying all the mean things about the other side.
In the fight.
I wasn't engaging in the fight, and I wasn't defending her. So I went out to lunch after the hearing was over, knowing that we had won and everything was fine, and the judge pronounced that she was going to be the custodial parent. But she, meanwhile, went to my office and demanded her file and wanted to hire another attorney to appeal what had just happened. And then when
she won the case.
She won. And so when I got back from lunch, she came back and saw me and said, "Sid, I'm so sorry. My husband called me, and my ex-husband, or to-be, called me and told me all the stuff for the kids so he could give it to me because since I won custody, I didn't realize it. But how come you didn't tell me?" Because she was engaged in the war. She missed it because she was engaged in the war. So, but the point is, though, it's important to get it right, what you do say. The judges hear the vitriol all the time. That's not what really
They're
matters.
not interested.
What they're interested in is what's in the best interest of the children and which parent is going to best provide. And here's the best thing, cooperation. If the judge hears, I'm going to cooperate, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure the kids have a relationship with the other parent, that's a really good thing, and it's demonstrable. If I come to court and my client has not allowed visitation, things like that, that's not going to look good for him or her. It's just not. And if she's been very open and, I'm making sure that dad's seeing the kids or he has the opportunity to. Now, another thing that just to get into on the side here, don't get into making the other parent visit or making the other parent do what is the right thing.
That's a recipe for frustration.
Yeah, that's a recipe for frustration, and it's not your business. Your business is what you do. And I've heard so many people, Sid, I do want him to have a lot of visits, but he won't do it. He just won't come. He'll make promises. I say, well, that's not up to you. Just give him the opportunity.
Don't
and
get
if
in
he
the
does
way.
It, great. Just don't get in the way.
Right.
And make sure you're accommodating. So those are the 3 biggest bullet points for how to win. And I just want to end with this situation that I started with. We won custody after a 5-day trial. 3 years later, I ran into this client of mine, and she had hired a different attorney this time because she was sort of embarrassed. They were going through it again. This time, she mortgaged her house. And this time, one of the 4 children, the oldest boy, ended up going with dad. And then I ran into her about 10 years later, and they were going through it again. And then, and this is the saddest part, about 5 years ago, I've been an attorney for almost 28 years now. About 5 years ago, a young man comes into my office, and he has just gotten married about 6 months before, and his marriage is just not working out. And he starts talking to me and all this stuff. And one of the questions I always ask is, well, how did you find my name? Oh, well, you won custody of me from my mom, so I'm going to have you be my attorney. I was so sad because it was perpetuating from generation to generation. And what he had grown up with was a custody battle over and over again between his parents. And this is the child of that divorce.
Wow.
So think about the future. That is so important. Think about what's really in the best interest of the children. And it's the best interest of the children for you to be your best.
Yes.
And not to be at war. If you want war, you'll get war, and you'll perpetuate war, and we'll teach our children war. If you want peace, if you want, we can work this out, don't get me wrong. There are people who will just not work it out. I get that. I get that I have clients that are cooperative, and their other side is just never going to be cooperative, and it's always going to be somewhat of a battle. Makes us attorneys lots of money because we keep going to court over and over again over stupid stuff. Oh yeah, it's my turn to have the children. Oh no, it's my turn to go on vacation at this time. No, it's my holiday. It's my...
Fight.
And fight. Or we can learn to cooperate and create mechanisms right in the beginning of the divorce during the process. People sometimes turn out to be better friends after they're divorced because they have a common goal, which is to be good for the kids and provide a great place. So that's what I want to say today, and I hope that's been helpful.
I hope you found that useful. Sid has got some amazing experience. If you want to connect to him, go to liveonpurpose.coach. Scroll down and you'll see him.